Every leader knows storms are coming. Pressure, uncertainty, hard conversations, decisions that don't come with clear answers. Those things aren't interruptions to leadership. They're part of the assignment. See, what separates leaders who remain steady from leaders who feel overwhelmed isn't talent, it isn't even experience, and it isn't how much they care. It's what they've built before the storm ever arrives. It's that preparedness that goes into place as they work to evolve to become a leader. Strong leadership isn't formed in chaos, it's built quietly, intentionally, and consistently long before pressure shows up. And in this solo podcast episode, we're going to look at two things. First, we're going to talk about the anchors leaders must build: strength, faith, and hope. Then we're going to build on that, and we're going to talk about how leaders can actively reinforce those anchors in everyday leadership. So they don't just hold up in theory, they actually play out in your real life. Sit back and enjoy this episode as we talk about strength, faith, and hope with leaders. Thanks a lot for joining us. Welcome to the Ankyra Leadership Podcast. I'm John Ricketts. This podcast exists for leaders who carry real responsibility, leaders in ministry, in nonprofit work, in businesses, and the community. If you're listening today, there's a good chance that you're carrying weight, that you've got some responsibility, that you might be stressed. Not imaginary pressure, this is real pressure. Decisions that affect people, expectations that don't turn off, and responsibility that follows you home. At Ankyra, we talk about leadership through the lens of anchors, not slogans, not inspiration, but foundations that you build on. You see, anchors don't eliminate storms, they keep you steady inside of them. This episode is not about fixing leaders, it's about strengthening you as a leader. These are things that I've learned that I try to continue to apply in the leadership work that I do as I lead others as well, even my own family and my own home. But as we look at these three anchors, let's look at anchor number one first, for strength. And I want you to look at it in the context of steadiness, not strain. Leadership strength is often misunderstood. We tend to categorize it and define it by capacity, the ability to carry more and do more and move faster and endure longer, or based upon achievement. But anchored strength looks different. Anchored strength is steadiness under pressure. It's the ability to slow the room when emotions are high, the ability to make clear decisions when urgency is loud, to stay present without being reactive. I've worked in high pressure leadership environments, disaster response operations, in nonprofit leadership, or in ministry, where urgency seems to never stop, and people are at the center of the problem and the solution. The strongest leaders weren't the ones doing everything. They were the ones where presence brought calm, whose clarity reduced anxiety, whose steadiness created trust. You see, strength isn't how much you can absorb or just endure. It's how grounded you remain while carrying that responsibility. As we look at anchor number two, the anchor of faith, let's look at it in the context of formation and dependence. We must intentionally build faith, and it's not faith as language or faith as public performance. Faith as formation is where it really starts. Anchored faith shapes how leaders listen, how they wait, discern, and respond It keeps leadership rooted in dependence rather than control. I've watched leaders face moments where there were no clear answers, no perfect data to make decisions, no guaranteed outcomes of the decisions that were going to be made. What sustained them wasn't certainty in their own abilities, it was posture. They asked better questions, they listened longer, and they were willing to move forward without pretending they had everything figured out. See, faith doesn't eliminate uncertainty, it gives leaders confidence to move forward without needing complete control. As we look at anchor number 3, let's look at it through, well, the anchor is hope. Let's look at it through vision and shared leadership. And we must intentionally build strength, intentionally build faith, and intentionally build hope. But hope isn't just optimism. I mean, that's all good and all, but it's actually more than that. It's the confidence that leadership is bigger than you alone. Anchored hope allows leaders to trust others, to empower teams, and believe progress continues even when they're not carrying everything themselves. I've seen leaders lead with vision, developing others, sharing responsibility, and building something that would outlast their own role. And those leaders are the ones that I've tried to emulate in myself. Hope changed how those individuals delegated, how they planned, how they measured success. And hope keeps leadership from becoming survival mode, if you will. So here's what we've talked about so far to this point. Strength keeps you steady, faith keeps you grounded, and hope keeps you looking forward. But anchors aren't just built once. Let me say that again. They're not just built once, they're reinforced day after day and decision after decision. It brings us to the second half of this episode. We want to be able to pull out and find some practical ways that you can take and implement building strength, faith, and hope, and reinforcing those anchors in your daily walk. What does that daily reinforcement look like? Let's talk about how leaders reinforce strength in everyday life. Anchored leaders build margin on purpose. They create thinking space. They slow important decisions and they seek wise counsel before pressure forces them to react. Practically, that looks like this: blocking time to reflect, protecting energy, and resisting the urge to solve everything immediately. As we look at practical faith, we can think of it in terms of rhythms for formation. Reinforcing faith requires us to create rhythms in our life. It's not perfection, it's rhythm. Anchored leaders build practices that keep them connected to wisdom beyond themselves. You might find that in scripture. You might find that in counsel from other individuals who've gone the journey before you, a mentor, through prayer, through journaling, or spiritual direction. Faith shapes leaders who listen before they lead. And we looked about how practical hope plays out. It's vision and shared ownership. Reinforcing hope means lifting our eyes beyond today's pressure. Anchored leaders invest in people. They delegate intentionally and they develop others. They talk about the future, even when the present is heavy. I can remember a time where, when I was in ministry first starting out, I wanted to do it all alone because I was trying to prove myself. But then I began to realize that actually my role was to create disciples and pass that leadership on to others and empower them to do more ministry beyond what I could potentially do. So take moments of time to reflect on yourself, step back, reevaluate your leadership around those areas. It's really a period of time of simple awareness that you can do. And where do you need to be intentional right now? on strength? Do you need steadiness? With faith, do you need that formation? And hope, do you need that vision? You don't need to rebuild everything. You just need to tend the anchors. Leadership will always involve storms. We've discussed that. We've talked about it. You're in the middle of it day to day. But leaders who build and reinforce anchors don't lead in fear. They lead with clarity, with humility, and with confidence. If this episode encouraged you, share it with another leader who's carrying that extra weight. Because leadership isn't about holding everything together. It's about being anchored so others can trust your leadership when it matters most. Thanks for watching the Ankyra Leadership Podcast. I hope you've been blessed by this episode. We look forward to seeing you soon.